Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel here. Today I wanted to talk about a topic that I've kind of been a little more involved in the past, coming up on a year now, I guess, and that is VR. And I kind of want to talk about what the future holds for VR, and more specifically like the VR industry, and like compared to the flat screen console and PC gaming, is it ever going to be on par or overtake, flat screen gaming? Are we going to be living in Ready Player One in 10 to 20 years from now? Is it going to be the medium of gaming? Is it ever, or like or is it going to completely die off or something? Like, what does the future hold for VR gaming, or just VR in general, really? I guess, and entertainment. What is that future? What is in store for us? And what that's going to look like. I just kind of want to talk about that there because VR for coming up almost on a year here is something I got into recently with the MetaQuest 3 and the PlayStation VR 2. And it's something I've really enjoyed. I've made some videos on it expressing my, kind of amazement and like fun I've had with the technology and everything on some videos and reviews that you've seen in the past here in the channel. I think it's a really cool medium. I think it's a really cool form of entertainment and gaming, and I've enjoyed my time playing it. But do I think it's ever going to be the future of gaming, or Ready Player One, or overtake, or be on par, and not just be this kind of niche, kind of sideshow, like gaming genre or like medium that it kind of is today? And the honest answer, kind of summing it up in a nutshell, if you want to leave this video real quick, is no. I don't think it'll ever overtake flat screen gaming. I don't even know if it'll ever be like the best case scenario is it'll be somewhat on par and like a respectable medium on its own, where people talk about like the console wars or something, or like the what's the best way to game, and they don't just reference PC and PlayStation and Nintendo Switch and the Xbox. They throw the MetaQuest, 4, 5, 6, 7 or whatever in there. In comparison, I think that's the best case scenario for gaming and VR. I'm just unsure if it's ever going to get to that point, and I'm almost positive it won't get to a point beyond that, in my opinion. And I kind of want to just talk about why and what I think is in store for the future and why I think that is. For me, like I've said, I've found VR to be a really fun medium and extra thing for gaming for me. Um, it's by far, in my experience, the most immersive gameplay experience I've ever experienced in my entire life, and I've been playing games for my entire life, basically. I play console, PC, mobile, handheld. I play and now VR, and it's by far the coolest thing I've ever experienced, and it's by far the most immersive thing I've ever experienced. When you're in VR, you're in whatever game you're playing. You see it, you can look around, you can interact with your hands and the controllers and the world. You feel like you're a part of it. There's haptics now that I have and stuff that you feel like you're a part of it, and the sounds around you, and you're just incredibly immersed. You're standing up, you're maybe walking around a bit, you're maybe throwing your hands and touching stuff and using the controllers to interact with the world. It is the most immersive form and the most engaged form of gaming by far that they have yet to come out with. And it's incredibly cool and it looks great. There's some really good games on there. The games aren't just some like demo games that they used to be back in like the rebirth of VR gaming. Back what fuck a decade, a little over a decade now at this point. That's not what they are. Like, there's some really good games. There's some AAA games. There's a lot of different variety. There's some really cool stuff, and that's why I think VR can get to a point where it's maybe on par as a medium of gaming, especially as it becomes more independent of PC and console, and it becomes, no wires involved, and it's standalone like the Meta is now, and everything. As that technology improves and the haptics improve and the games and the funding improves, I think it can maybe get to that point, especially with the backing of a behemoth of a company like Meta. It can get to an interesting point there. But at the same time, I think the big pros of VR gaming are kind of its limiting factor for why I don't think it's going to like overtake flat screen gaming or be like the new flat screen gaming, at least anytime soon or maybe ever. And that's because it is the most active and engaged form of gaming by far. And you're like, why is that a bad thing? On a small sample size, it's not, but why it's a bad thing for a lot of people, and why even for me as someone who loves VR and has enjoyed my experience with VR so far, why I think, why I don't have more hours on my VR headsets than I do on my flat screen options. Even like honestly, it's pretty not even particularly close. I mean, I have hours on my VR that I play, weekly and stuff, but why I prefer playing on flat screen most of the time And it's not just the games. People talk about, oh, well, the games just get so much more funding and it's more established. There's a lot more games coming out, and a lot more good games, and a lot more bad games, I guess, but good games too coming out for it. And it's like it's just hard to compete, with a upcoming industry, and that's part of it. I think that's true. Like I enjoy College Football 26 a lot, Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2 a lot. I've enjoyed the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered and Doom: The Dark Ages recently and stuff. So it's like, and those games aren't available on fucking VR, you know. So that's a part of it. But getting back to the point of like the active engaged part, a lot of times I just don't really feel like I want to play in VR sometimes, especially like if I come home from work and or school and or working out, or if people come home from one of those or all of those or whatever. They're kind of tired, they're kind of lazy to be completely brutally honest with myself and some other people here. And it's like I don't really know if I want to, wear kind of somewhat slightly heavy headset with a battery pack strapped to it, stand up and move around a bit, and like maybe have to plug in a wire or something and get some like a play area set up. And it's just like it's so easy. It's so much easier and simpler to just turn on a console or even a PC, just plop down in a chair or a couch and turn on your monitor or your TV and just game on something simple, where I can be a couch potato. I can, scroll on my phone, watch a YouTube video on the background or side if it's not too active and involved of a game like a strategy game or something. The simplicity and the ease of console gaming has always been one of its biggest, and like flat screen gaming in general has always been one of its biggest selling points, and what I think kind of keeps is one of the many reasons why I think it'll keep itself in front of VR, because VR, it's gotten better over the years where it's standalone now. It's gotten lighter. Um, you know, Stuff's gotten better and the technology looks better and it's gotten better over time. There's less VR sickness and stuff. But at the end of the day, not everybody, like, unless you're one of those weird people who does a ton of seated VR experiences, which honestly is just not the way to play VR, in my opinion. You're on your feet, you're probably moving around a little bit, or at least moving your arms around a little bit and stuff, and wearing this pretty intrusive headset that like it's not super heavy or annoying, but it's more annoying than like not wearing a headset and just listening to speakers on a TV, or wearing like a simple gaming headset like the one I'm talking through now, for sure. And you can't really have super long, it's more active and involved, and people might be too lazy sometimes to play that, or even to set it up like with the wires, especially if you have like a PC VR headset or something. And on top of that, VR doesn't suit itself to, I guess, super long play sessions. Part of it is just the limitation, I guess, on the battery. Like you're talking 3 to 5 hours of like playtime max if just using like a fully charged headset, or if you have a battery pack, it can vary, or what game you're playing, it can vary a bit. But that's generally where you're getting. But even then, especially on some of the more physical games, but even on like the games where you're generally just kind of standing up and moving around a tiny bit, wearing that headset and standing up and moving around a little bit, like after an hour, 2 hours or whatever, it gets kind of old, and they're completely cut out from the outside world, and you're doing that, and it's like, okay, after an hour or two, I'm kind of good on VR gaming session for now until my next one, and it does, especially like, God forbid you're playing like Thrill to Fight or something like that, like damn near an exercise game or a sports game or something where you're moving around and interacting and really getting a sweat on or raising that heart rate. After half an hour, after an hour, you're kind of like, shit, man, maybe take a break, maybe put it up for today, or something. And it's like you just don't want to play for as long, and it doesn't lend itself to as long play sessions or games that take a super long time. Like I saw they ported Civ 7 to it. Me knowing myself, and I thought it was cool. I might get it just to experience it. But me knowing how many hours I put in the Civ 6 on PC, and how long some of those playthroughs were, and how many things I did, and how long I played for in general, total, and each in session, I don't know if I'd want to do that in VR. Again, you're kind of just huddled around a table, and that's not one of the more active games. But like, I don't really know how long I'd want to have it on my head, and I feel like I'd want to be playing more, but the battery situation would be there, or like I'd kind of get annoyed by the headset at some point or something, and I just prefer to like sit on my couch and like play on my PC or my fucking console for that game. Like even games like that were pretty minimal like engagement, I guess, or like activity levels compared to some other ones on VR. I think that on top of the game choice, and the last big thing, which is kind of a self-fulfilling or like chicken and egg prophecy type, self-fulfilling prophecy or chicken and egg type thing, is like the problem is a lot of people like to play video games with their friends and play on what their friends are playing. That's a big reason for like, why are you playing on console? Why do you play on PC? Why do you play on Xbox or Nintendo, or why do you play on PlayStation or Steam? So it's like, oh well, a lot of my friends are just on that platform, and I thought it'd be good, and it looked pretty solid to me, and so I just got it. That's a big decision. That's a big deciding factor for why a lot of people buy something or decide to play on something. Is because their friends are already on there, or they have a player base that they know on there that they can play some games with and stuff. And online and co-op is a somewhat big area of VR. There's a good amount of games on there for that. And VR just isn't as popular at the moment. So a lot of people don't have friends or family or people that they know that really want to play with them on VR. And it's like, oh, well, maybe I'll just stick to my Xbox or my PC or my laptop or my PlayStation or my Nintendo Switch too, because I already have a friend base or a family like group on there that I play games with and stuff. And it's like, oh, well, how are you ever going to get there if somebody doesn't take the first lunge, or if people don't start playing VR more and stuff? And it's like, yeah, it's kind of a catch 21 or 22 or whatever it is. It's like you can't have one without the other, but one won't happen without the other type of thing, which is a problem that needs to be solved. I think showing off the cool parts that I talked about at the beginning of the video VR, as well as making it cheaper, which Meta has done an incredible job doing, and increasing game budgets and the amount of games and the quality of games, getting stuff like Half-Life Alyx, getting the support of PlayStation, of Meta, of Steam, and Valve, is a huge help, and I think it's why it's grown and stayed alive for the past years, and why I think it could eventually get to that state where it's on par with console gaming and flat screen gaming in general. But it's just not there right now. I think that's why it won't ever get bigger than those, just because of the simplicity and the ease, and the selling point of console and flat screen gaming, in my opinion. So that's my thoughts on the future of VR and the industry and where I think it's heading and why. Obviously, it's pretty surface level, it's pretty wide instead of deep there. Could have gotten into some very specific stuff or some other stuff. But that's in general my general overview and thoughts on the future of VR and everything. Let me know down below what you thought of the video and what you thought of my takes, what your thoughts on VR are, and if it's ever going to, really grow into something huge like a Ready Player One situation, or ever going to get somewhere big, or what do you think is going to happen to VR in the future? I think it'll always be around, worst case scenario, and it'll be a cool way to play some cool games. That's worst case scenario. It'll shrink a little, but it'll be a cool like niche medium to explore every once in a while. But I think it'll at least stay in its current spot and maybe grow a little, is my prediction. But yeah, let me know what y'all think. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, if you enjoyed the channel, I encourage you to like and subscribe. It definitely is appreciated and helps out the channel a lot. But yeah, that's about it. And I'll see y'all in the next one.